Please. Today I'll be reading Chapter 4 of Colors of Obsession by Bubbly Ship. This is a re-recording of Chapter 4 as my editing app cut off the end of it. Also, for notes, I am sick at the moment. I'm just getting over... No, I'm not. That's a lie. I'm sick at the moment. So, if my breathing sounds awful, I'm so sorry. I'm probably going to cut out some larger chunks of my breathing today, which I do occasionally. And if I sound a bit off, that's why. Sorry. I'm going to get into it now. Izuku got the message, loud and clear. He's not sure of the exact meaning behind the message, since Razorhead was very obviously a fucked up man in the head, with a confusing sense of directions, but Izuku certainly does get the message that his current inactivity was not pleasant for the man. Which, admittedly, isn't fantastic, because now the police were hunting down Q to drag him to the station and figure out if he was connected to these murders or not. And Izuku isn't sure he'd be able to sit there, probably handcuffed to a table, and not sob about how he thinks he is. The total casualty number comes down to 39. 39 pictures of Izuku's heart poured across unusual canvases remained in the town. 39 people died because of it, because Izuku dared to catch the attention of someone he never should have been involved with. When Bakugo Katsuki's little Hitchman group told Izuku to kill himself, and when the teacher pretended not to hear despite her advanced hearing quirk, Izuku sat down with himself and acknowledged that he wasn't going anywhere grand. He crossed off for the future on his notebook, unfollowed Herotip blogs, and quietly threw away the costume designs he spent years working on. Midoriya Izuku wasn't going to be a name remembered, most likely. He wasn't going to UA. He wasn't going to become a hero. He wasn't going to do anything big or important in his life. The town of Matutafu infected its residents with insignificance, and Izuku wasn't able to escape, much like everybody else. So he hungered down, accepted his small and pitiful fate, and drew until his joints ached and his fingers bled. Q wasn't an artist who was going to be adored. It was a figure who drew glossy-eyed little girls in white dresses that made his chest ache with familiarity, while he tried to cling to one of his few reliefs in this old forgotten corner of life. Q was not meant to spawn the interest of one man that led to 39 deaths in one day to lure out the others. And yet, they don't tell the police. The moment they find out Izuku was quirkless and associated with the Razorhead briefly for a moment, they would arrest him. Wouldn't matter how much of a victim he was quirkless, doing illegal art, and inadvertently caused innocent civilians to die. He considers telling Hitoshi's parents, because Izuku would adore an experienced adult's input on this, but chooses to bite his tongue and refrain. Telling people and involving them could spread the disease known as a Razorhead's attention, especially since Hitoshi was also involved. Since he was the local villain fan and Q lookout, there was no way in hell Izuku was going to drag his friend along for the bumpy ride. He'd rather throw himself off a cliff. Hitoshi looks less than thrilled with the news. He looks like he may throw Izuku off that imaginary cliff with his own bare hands. Izuku points at him. No, we're not arguing about this. Izuku was halfway done packing his bag again, having accidentally spilled its contents all over the floor when he kicked it underneath his bed a while ago. A lot of spray cans, small and cheap, what he could afford with the money his mother periodically left behind so Izuku wouldn't be forcibly taken by authorities. There's a can of pepper spray that he bought ages ago as well, with an old notebook for when he was craving a sketch or quirk ramble. Hitoshi's left eye twitches. Oh, like hell we're not going to argue about this. Bullcrap. Yes, we are. You can't just march around outside looking... You can't just march around outside alone with a Razorhead after you, for hell knows why, and in the place for even dumber reasons. Taking you along, Izuku argues back, shoving 2 more cans of green into his bag, is just as bad as going by myself. You can get hurt. I'd rather one of us go on his radar than both of us. Hitoshi grinds his teeth together, a habit of his when he is really upset or stuck with something he couldn't quite figure out. Izuku remembers countless times here in the classroom slaving away at an exam or pop quiz and hearing it from a few rows behind him. Stop it, arm. Sorry. Give me a moment. Taking you along, Izuku argues back, shoving 2 more cans of green into his bag. It's just as bad as going by myself. You can get hurt. I'd rather one of us on his radar than both of us. Hitoshi grinds his teeth together, a habit of his when he was really upset or stuck with something he couldn't quite figure out. Izuku can remember countless times in the classroom, slaving away on an exam or pop quiz, hearing it from a few rows behind him. Don't take this the wrong way, dude, but going alone is suicidal. You can't protect yourself. Izuku arches an eyebrow, and Hitoshi practically stumbles over his words as he continues. Because you're quirkless. Not because... No. Not because you're quirkless, but because you have twigs for arms and all you carry around is pepper spray that... He reaches over and snags it, expression twisting into horror as he reads the label. Expired 4 years ago. Oh my god, I'm buying you a new one. Izuku steals the spray back with a slip of his wrist and tosses it into the bag. I know it's not ideal, but for some reason, Eraserhead didn't want to kill me last time. I don't know what he would do if someone else showed up with me, Toshi, and I really don't want to find out by having you as my test subject. There's a grimace in Hitoshi's expression. I can brainwash him, force him to turn himself in, which is a filthy lie if Izuku's ever heard one. Hitoshi's quirk is amazing. Izuku has gone on tireless tangents about its amazing applications, and was even half the reason Hitoshi managed to get into the hero course of UA. But the conditions to fulfill it could be tricky when some people just didn't decide to answer questions, and when Hitoshi had the unfortunate habit of making his questions super obvious and baiting during times of stress. So there was no guarantee that Eraserhead would even honour Hitoshi's question before killing either him or both of them. He's made it clear that morning that he's willing to go out of his way to kill innocents. Eraserhead usually didn't, but the slaughter was full of bystanders who just happened to live close to the graffiti Izuku painted up. Simple tools for his message. If he wanted to get Izuku alone, he'd get Izuku alone. And if Hitoshi did manage to snag him with his quirk, a fun little thing that the boy had trouble with is keeping victims under while loud noises go on around them. He hadn't had that sort of trouble until Hitoshi moved to a school and suffered the same fate Izuku had against Bakugo's lovely, loud quirk. Any loud noises had Hitoshi out on defense, and more often than not caused his focus to stutter and his quirk to drop from a target. If they did get Eraserhead under the quirk, they wanted to make sure he got taken in by police, they'd have to sit by as sirens bleed and hope to the gods above his quirk sticks. Then get taken in by the police, probably get figured out, and off to jail they go. If Izuku managed to get Hitoshi arrested, he would probably get a mop thrown at him too. It doesn't help that Izuku is carrying out a phone that he stole from his mom's drawer ages ago. That's way out of date and isn't compatible with any of the new apps, like trackers or location sharing ones. So Izuku can't even share his location with Hitoshi other than constant updates and hope that would be enough. Hitoshi isn't dumb, and he clearly knows what he just said was bullshit as he spits it out. He looks defeated, teeth against teeth as he grinds away, as if trying to file both rows down through sheer will. If I need your help, I'll call you, Izuku says. If I need you to call the police, I'll text you my location. I have my pepper spray, and hey, maybe it'll be more painful the longer it's out of date? Hitoshi snorts. I'm sure it will. The laugh he gives is dry, and it falls flat near the end. They both linger in silence. Usually it was comfortable. Today it was anything but. I can't just sit here and do nothing, Izuku. Hitoshi mutters, falling back into Izuku's creaky office chair, and his chest mounts from the aching pain of his friend's words. I can't just sit here and twiddle my thumbs while you run around with a crazy serial killer on your tail. That's not right, Izuku. Izuku feels a lump in his throat. You're right. It's not. he falls back against his old worn mattress in defeat. If it comes down to it, I'd like to have you around so we could get away with your quirk. But even if he does respond, it's 1 times 8. Eraserhead was smart, Toshi. You should have seen his eyes. I could tell. There's an I know how it's pronounced. I know the word. Indistinguishable ear around Eraserhead that couldn't be put into words. A surprise ice cream flavour no one could even try to guess. He picked apart Izuku piece by piece in the minute or two they spent talking. His quirk had to do something with his eyes, which is good considering the pepper spray would probably be very effective. But the man knew things. He wouldn't be one of the most powerful villains that went under the usual radar without good reason. That stare was creepy. Izuku can remember when he used to be more open about quirk studying, while he stared intensely at people, being called a freak. Now he understood it. If that was the kind of intense gaze he gave others while scribbling away in his notebooks, he had a lot of people to apologize to. Or is it... Hitoshi's quirk could very well work once, but it wouldn't work twice. Not on someone observant like Eraserhead. And it'd be foolish to throw that card right at the start. If Eraserhead found some type of interest in Hitoshi's quirk, like he found a weird interest in Izuku's art, well, that wouldn't be very good for anyone. Hitoshi was always compared to a villain, and he doesn't think delivering the boy with a quirk believed to be inherently useful for evil people on a silver platter would help anyone in the situation. Especially since the guy seemed to find a sense of humour in Izuku's sarcasm, and Hitoshi is much worse than him. Together they become the epitome of little shits. Izuku nearly shudders at the mental image of Eraserhead threatening to snatch Hitoshi up as well, to bring him along for support, only to deliver him into the arms of a man he of all people knew as a terror. What? Hitoshi draws out slowly, hands practically trembling. Do we do then? Izuku sucks in a breath. His bare feet brush against the carpet slowly. A slow sway of his legs as he thinks it over. There isn't much other choice than me going out tonight. I'll see if I can talk to him. He's logical from what you've said. Not recently, Hitoshi bites back, and yeah, he's right. Apparently the whole server was in disarray over what he did, because Eraserhead usually didn't pull such public stunts like that. That means, for some unknown reason, Izuku was making him act against his typical behaviour, just to draw the teen out from hiding. The man, known for only slight sightings and constant debates about his kills, openly slaughtered people in a pattern centered around one person. It still puts a sour, queasy feeling in Izuku that makes him want to vomit at the thought. Izuku isn't sure why Eraserhead seemed to suddenly draw his attention with the murders equivalent to fireworks. Why he approached him instead of passing along or simply killing him. Why he threatened to snatch him up as if a white van that was totally full of alluring candy was parked just down the block. If he were to believe his words, he doesn't, not really. It's because of his art. His art led back to Q, who was Midoriya Izuku, and the curiosity and the interest that formed in the art followed down that path. Izuku hopes, desperately, that it's not because the man recognizes the shoe brand in the photos. Not many people do, barely anyone does. And if that's why the man is interested, Izuku is screwed. The one thing interesting with strangers that gave Izuku an advantage each and every time was that he had the element of surprise with a quirk. They'd be constantly looking, guessing, waiting for the grand reveal that would never happen. Sometimes Izuku would lie about his quirk to try and scare people off. Because, well, if he says his skin is poisonous and they haven't seen a lick of a quirk sign from anything else Izuku did, they're bound to be cautious about touching his skin. If the man goes into their encounter knowing he's a skinny, quirkless boy, Izuku is by all accounts screwed. But maybe that's why he hesitated and gave him the chance to run, because he didn't know Izuku's quirk. He's not sure. As long as people don't know you, they would never assume quirklessness, and thus they would always act with a hint of caution. Izuku can always bank on that with strangers. I'll go and see what he wants. I don't think he would have killed all those people if he wanted me dead. Izuku pauses. He's heard of countless theories and stories from Hitoshi. Sure, but he's only really met the man once in person for a period of time less than 5 minutes. He doesn't seem like the type of person to create that example if he just wanted to kill me. Because he kills plenty of other people, harder to find people with more connections. He wouldn't have to play his hand and force Izuku to come out of hiding when Izuku can probably be figured out easier than other enemies. It's weird how much Izuku feels like he knows about this man, or how much Izuku feels like he knows about this man at once. It's an uncomfortable feeling that sits in his stomach like a rock. You should go home and be with your parents, Izuku mumbles out. I know it sucks, but I think I can go on today without getting killed. I'd rather go with a guaranteed deathless visit than risk the possibility of it. Hitoshi buries his head into his hands. I hate this, he groans, his voice sore and quiet, defeated. I hate this. I'm so sorry. Izuku stares across at him. It's not your fault. The silence almost suffocates. The man doesn't lunge at Izuku. He doesn't try to strangle him. He's standing at the end of an... Oh, wait, what? I skipped an entire chunk. I'm sorry. Reading people is a necessary skill in Izuku's case. Quirkless people cannot exist if they cannot learn to understand those around them, those who are safe to reveal their status to and those who are not. There are people they can ask for help and people they need help to avoid. It's the simple rules of the universe. Orazi is an unreadable man with a glint in his eyes. It's intense, and it's a look Izuku... What? Where did I read Izuku? It's intense. It's a look that isn't murderous. He doesn't understand immediately. The man doesn't lunge at Izuku. He doesn't try to strangle him. He's standing at the end of the alleyway, arms crossed, almost looking pleased with himself, as Izuku finishes up his half-done painting from the day they first met. Izuku doesn't even know how the hell he got there. He hadn't heard a peep of footsteps. Neither of them speak for a moment. Izuku can merely keep his hand steady. Why? It's not said like a question. He's not sure if a razor he can pick up on its meaning. Why did he seek him out of all people? Why did he seem to have some sort of interest in him? Why did he kill those people just to grab his attention? Would you have rather I used my resources and hunted down your address? Ozzy asks, his words slow and precise. Izuku pauses. He feels like he swallowed a lemon and then cut an onion and then stepped in a Lego brick. Oh, and also watched a newscast this morning that carefully detailed how 39 deaths were his fault. I would have rather you left me alone, Izuku grumbles out, drawing another line across the bricks with a slow, tedious drag of his wrist. I'd rather not have to deal with this and go on a vacation to some warm beach. I need to tan. You want to visit a beach sometime? Is that seriously the only thing you got from that entire statement? There's a shrug from the man. It was the only part I was necessarily interested in, admittedly. I don't intend to let you go anytime soon, but you decided to apparently disappear from the face of the earth. I'll send a postcard to your home with a lovely little beachside if you'd rather that option. And that's a threat if he's ever heard one. Izuku doesn't understand this man. Why he's looking at him with such an intense expression. Why he seems so relaxed next to a boy he's spoken to once, briefly. Why he seems to watch every line Izuku paints as if he's crafting a masterpiece. Can we visit my question of why again? Izuku shrugged out. He's trying not to become overwhelmed as he works, because the painting is keeping his hands busy and he needs a distraction from as an S-tier villain stares at him. There's a pause from the man. For a moment, Izuku thinks this is it. The straw that breaks the camel's back. The thing that causes the wires to snap together and make the man go, oh right, I'm a villain, and snap his neck. The man doesn't do that. I'm curious about you. And that's something Izuku has never heard in his life. He's ordinary by all means. Simple face, no quirk, only a teenage boy with a bit of a hero worship face and a defensive, sarcastic tone to his words. No one should be curious about him, especially not a Razorhead. The man Hitoshi, a hero student, goes out of his way to study out of morbid curiosity. No, seriously, why? Razorhead, Izuku says. Razorhead gives him a look. I told you, I saw your work down by the beach. I got curious and hunted down your other works, and you are a fascinating individual. I had to meet you. That's why I tracked your art patterns and spoke to you before. Didn't you get enough from me then? I spoke to you. You met me. Whatever curiosity you had about me should have been answered, Izuku almost shouts, turning on his heel to face the man. Why the hell did you kill all those people to get me outside again? You said you'd give me a chance to run. I did say that. His eyes gleam red for a moment, the ends of his hair puff up from the glow. I quirk for sure. But I believe there is an important distinction between running and hiding, Q. The air almost seems to go colder with those words. Izuku hugs his arms to his chest, repressing a shiver. The man's eyes twitch as he watches the teenager. I'm fascinated by you, Q. You don't need to worry about the details, but you should know how lenient I'm already being with you. I could have your entire family and friend circle on my phone in 5 minutes if I wanted to. I could hold them all hostage and just take you away right now, but I don't want to do that. The man pauses, tilting his head as his red eyes gleam from the darkness. And I don't think you do either. I think we should do this the right way. It takes him a moment, but then Izuku reaches his destination. He swallows thickly, letting his arms hug tighter against him. He can identify that look now that he's starting to figure out this villain, this serial killer, bit by bit. You've already decided then, Izuku mumbles out. The man's grin sharpens, and that's all the confirmation he needs. The simple curiosity wouldn't lead to a mass murder of 39 people just to get a second conversation. Simple fascination wouldn't lead to the confrontation where a man who had access to everything was turning it down because he didn't feel like it. Izuku takes a step back, his heel digging into the gravel as he studies the man. The stare he was giving Izuku, or clinging and possessive, was not simple curiosity. It's a hyperfixation. It's Izuku's love for art, multiplied and twisted into something new and ugly, and it's all focused on him. Eraserhead isn't quite interested in the art. He's not quite interested in simply finding a new victim. He's latched himself onto the idea of Izuku himself, the mysterious spray painter teenager who, with a bit of an attitude problem in the old, rundown city of Masutafu. Why remains unknown. What path led Eraserhead to this conclusion was likely a twisted, long, winding one that wasn't really developed from a single instance. It's probably one that was years in the making, and Izuku just happened to be the unfortunate victim that caught his gaze. A boy who tried to be a little honest to the world at the wrong place in the wrong time with a secret or two on his shoulder. It's why Eraserhead wants to deny himself instead of the reward of finding him through his resources. Why he went out of his way with an outlandish show of ability, taking the lives of so many innocents just to draw his attention. Izuku is a puzzle box. He wants the thrill of unlocking and owning. Izuku is sure the monster of a villain has an army at his disposal to hunt down one single graffiti artist in some forgotten place in Japan, but he doesn't. He's reframing because because it'd be that much sweeter to get the reward personally. And Izuku almost laughs bitterly because the man has no idea the type of boy he latched onto. He's a quirkless deku with mommy issues, and even worse, daddy issues, and no future ahead of him. He's not a secret prodigy. That has to be it, right? No one loves someone just because they do. Eraserhead probably formed some grand idea of a teenager that was meant for greatness. He's so enthralled by the puzzle on the box he doesn't realize it's stinking of mold. Izuku hates him already. No. The man stares. At the very least, he's waiting for Izuku to speak. Izuku isn't sure he likes that consideration or not. Makes him feel used, gross, and abandoned all over again. The other kids beat him up for the temporary sense of power. This was just the same situation. Why did he think an S-class villain would be any different from middle schoolers? They are both using Izuku for a short burst of thrill. He hates it. I won't play your game. You're chasing a dead end with me, Izuku tells him honestly. I'm not going to follow along and force myself to make art while you try to hunt me through the streets like some stalker. I'd rather you just come by my house and kill me. There's a gleam in his eyes. He's looking up at Izuku, down him, back up. His expression is still weird and off. Almost inhuman. No, I won't. I won't ever do that. Well, I'm not going to play your game. I don't make art when I don't feel like it, and I'm not going to force myself to parade around once a week so you can feel like a cat after a mouse. Izuku isn't really sure where he's getting this confidence from. Maybe it's because he got the confirmation that the man doesn't actually know who he is. Maybe it's because he keeps thinking of Hitoshi, tucked away onto Izuku's hand-me-down office chair, feeling useless. Maybe it's because he's been done for years, and he's not going to let a stranger ruin the one thing that makes him feel like he's just there to die. That he is, I draw art when I want to, so I can't control you chasing me, Izuku says, but I'm not going to force myself to paint. That ruins the fun of it. You ruin the fun of it. So, I'm going to ruin your fun. In an act of either incredibly big brain energy or, more likely, unfathomable stupidity, Izuku reaches up and drags down his hood, revealing his face through the shadows of the cramped and suffocating alleyway, his prison, and possibly his resting ground for when he took his last breath. Izuku Midoriya, there. I live alone, so there's no one to really threaten, and my quirk status is so empty that I go by Deku. Congratulations, I just ruined your fun. Hitoshi probably would have killed him if he heard that sudden confession. Hitoshi's mum probably would have found some way to wrap that damn broom around his neck and strangle him. Either way, he says it, because he's already so done. The person that would have been hurt if Eraserhead got bored of him wouldn't have been his mother. It would have been Hitoshi, who swings around by his house every day. Who swings around his house practically every day, and if chasing the thrill of the unknown curiosity-inducing teenager who killed 39 people, he's not interested in explaining his own lifeline, only to get more people killed. Once he realized what this man's goal was, he realized, bitterly, just how much of his death was set into stone. Either he gets it out of the way now and gets no one else killed, or he plays the game and lets Eraserhead find out in a sense of dissatisfaction how untasty the prey he was chasing was. He'd rather just bite the bullet now. If he had known this was how the conversation would have twisted, Izuku would have probably given Hitoshi a longer goodbye. It doesn't matter though, because even though his chest is clenching with an incoming panic attack and his hands are clammy with the possibility of up-and-coming death, he continues to stare forward at Eraserhead. Izuku had thought it was a possible light interest in art. Some villains had normal hobbies, or maybe because Eraserhead thought his pieces about pollution could twist him to his side, or whatever, but this was stupid. This he hated. He didn't want to chase. He didn't want to be a mouse. He was tired of that shit. Then Eraserhead breathes out. It's not of disappointment. You're so perfect. Eraserhead mumbles out. I see why I want you now. You're utter perfection. Izuku felt the sudden burst of bravery melt away as the waiting anxiety that dwelled under it clasped onto his heart and squeezed. He takes a step back and another as the villain watches with a smile only equatable to the word feral. Izuku wildly misinterpreted this situation. There's only ever been a few people who continued past the word quirkless when he mentioned it. Hitoshi and his family, a girl who worked part-time at a boba shop who said her little sister was quirkless and made sure to shoo away anyone who commented on Izuku. Small tidbits of people here and there who didn't mind, but that was such a minority compared to the people who scowled, washed their hands after they touched him, or thought he was proof the human race was still imperfect. Of all people who would not only be fine but fascinated by a quirkless person, it had to be a supervillain, didn't it? Oh god, was this guy one of those perverted quirkless lovers? Usually those people clamber up to him when they see the shoes, practically knowing the brand by heart. So Izuku didn't think so, but it was the only reason he could muster up at the moment as to why this man would seem so enthused about Izuku revealing everything about himself in that regard. His hands itch towards the pepper spray, but it's late. Far, far too late. A scarf shoots forward, and Izuku only manages to dodge it once before the twisted fabric twists back around, But as that scarf wraps around his torso, the bottle of pepper spray in his pocket is grasped in his hands, and a spray of vicious liquid shoots out. The stream isn't steady; it's slightly clogged, so the half spray is given more of a wide, loosely aimed wave that more so explodes throughout the alleyway like a sonic wave, than a natural stream. In hindsight, using a fully expired can of pepper spray that was very likely clogged from age was not a good idea, especially when Izuku was now half wrapped up, being dragged towards the legendary Eraserhead. All Izuku knows is that his inner Eraserhead's coughs echo throughout the alleyway, and Izuku can't see anything through his blurry, tear-filled vision. His arms were tightly bound on either side of his torso, uncomfortably pressed so he couldn't even move an inch. That weird capture scarf no doubt completely wrapped around his torso like a makeshift rope, one somehow far more sturdy than anything Izuku had encountered. He tried to jolt out of his arms, tried to wiggle out, but whatever the hell wrapped around him refused to budge. "Alright, kid," Eraserhead says, his voice a bit strained from the pepper spray attack as he hoists Izuku into his arms. "Let's go." And then in the notes it says, Izuku literally had so many other options and ways out, and he still decided to rickroll himself. Poor lad. And that is the chapter 4 of Colors of Obsession. I really like this chapter. I actually almost cried the first time I read this out loud, because Izuku was so prepared to die, and that's just so sad to me. Because what do you mean Izuku thought, oh yes, I'm dying, and he was just fine with it? Also, I forgot to mention, thank you for 100 subscribers. I was so happy when I saw that. My other video that's also coming out tonight, because I plan on posting this tonight, mentions a 100 subscribers special. So if you're only listening to this part because you, I don't know, maybe you read the rest of chapter 4, but whatever. If you're only listening to this part and not the other part, you can also leave suggestions for the special in the comments of this video. Yeah. But yeah, the first time I read this, I almost cried. Like, it's just so sad. He's so prepared to die. He genuinely thinks he's going to die, and he's just fine with it. Also, I just find it, like, Izuku thinks he's gonna get away because he shares his quirk status and all that. And Aizawa's just like, oh, cool. And moves on in capturing Izuku. Does anyone else do that? Like, not the Izuku thing. Does anyone else call, like, certain My Hero characters by their last name and other ones by their first name? Because I've noticed recently that I call Aizawa, and I call Izuku, and I call Hisashi, and I can call Izuku Midoriya. I'm able to do that easily. But Yamada feels so weird to say in reference to Hisashi. But I don't know. Anyways, as always, remember to eat, drink, and sleep. And have a good rest of your day, night, or afternoon. And I will see you in the next one.